Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Just a second. Yes. So everyone is able to hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, sir. You must be able to see the screen, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then let's let's get this started. Students, keep your mics muted. You will unmute
Okay, sir.
yourself only when you have any problem or you have any question. Okay? And mark your attendance by sending your name, class, and section to me personally. Okay? Send me your name, class, and section, and your attendance will be marked. Okay? So that's it. Just a second. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, we are going to study about what we know so far about our cell. Okay, we are going to start with that. If you have any problem or is there any question, then you will ask me. Okay, otherwise, do not just intervene in between. Okay, just a second. I will start in a bit.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Peter.
So, of which chapter this topic is?
This is the fifth chapter. Fifth chapter.
Okay, sir.
Unit of life, the cell. Okay, fundamental unit of life, cell. Okay. Now, first of all, we have already studied that the cell is called the basic and the structural or the fundamental unit of life, right? And we also know that cell has many small organelles, which we call as the cell is having small little organs, which basically perform the systems or basically perform the functions like, for example, we have studied excretion, right? For example, nutrition. So there are various functions and various functions are performed by various cell organelles inside a cell, right? We have studied about that. We are also going to conduct our onion root tip experiment. Whenever the school reopens, we will conduct this particular experiment, onion root tip experiment. And there are several examples of the organisms which are composed of cells or which have which have the cells. For example, bacteria, fungi, plants, animals. All of these are having cells. What type of cell they are having, that's another matter, but they are having cells. Okay. Now the questions that must come is that what are cells made up of? Okay, so we are going to answer this particular question as well in this chapter. And how does a cell function? This question will also be answered. Next question is, what is the structure of cell and its various parts? The components of the cells, we will study about that also. Now, how many cells are present in you? That means the student who is watching it. Okay, so we will also study that. Now, all the plants and animal cells, do they have the same type of cells or do they have different types of cells? Or plant or animals, do they have any kind of similarity or is there any difference? We will study about that also. Okay. And the next slide says that cell, let's understand the term. Already I have given the explanation in section E and C, but section D is left, right? So students of section D should listen to it more carefully. First of all, there was a scientist called Robert Hooke. Okay, it is the name of a scientist, Robert Hooke. Now, what Robert Hooke did, he developed his own microscope and he took a cell. He took cork cells basically. Now, what are cork cells? Cork cells are those cells which are present in the bark of a tree. जो ट्री का बेटा एक bark होता है ना उसमें. So bark of a tree is having some cork cells, and those cork cells was studied by Robert Hooke. And when he saw the structure, Robert Hooke, when he saw the structure, he was actually able to observe some pattern. And what was the pattern? Just a second. Let me tell you what was the pattern. Okay. Yeah, the pattern was like a honeycomb structure. Honeycomb means, what does the word honeycomb mean? Can anyone tell me?
Sir, मधुमक्खी का छत्ता.
मधुमक्खी
A hive of beehive, जिसको हम बोलते हैं beehive. Beehive is मधुमक्खी का छत्ता, right? So it looked just as similar to the beehive, and since it was so much similar to beehive, he said that actually these chambers or these boxes are having no openings at all. No openings. That means they are closed from all the sides. And since they are closed from all the sides, Robert Hooke said that it's just similar to a cell in which the prisoners are locked, right? So he said that a cell, cell meaning a small room in which a prisoner is locked up, that is the cell is closed from all the sides and there is no opening. In the left hand side diagram on your screen, you can see there are cells and there is no opening. Every cell is tightly packed to the other cell. This is what he meant by saying that I have discovered some of these structures and he called them as cells. Okay. Now let us understand by the hierarchy. Next topic is about the hierarchy of body organization. What does it mean? First of all, the hierarchy means a systematic arrangement. What does it mean? A systematic arrangement. Systematic arrangement means at the top there will be a level with higher ranking, then lower ranking, then lower, then lower, then lower. For example, let's say if you are having a problem in your school. If you're having a problem in your school, let's say it was a regular school, then you would say that problem to the class monitor, right? Let's say if the class monitor is not listening to you, you will say to the class teacher, right? Let's say if the class teacher is not listening to you, then you will directly approach the coordinator or the senior teacher. Let's say if that is also not listening to you, similarly, you will approach the principal, right? Principal now. So this positioning is a kind of hierarchy. This is called as hierarchy. So how do we observe hierarchy in the body organization? It is depicted in this particular diagram on your screens. So first of all, we say that there are cells. There are cells, and these cells are made when these cells group together, they are going to form tissues in our body. Okay. For example, hepatic. The word hepatic means liver. It is related to liver. So liver cells, when the liver cells are going to form a group, they are going to form tissue of liver. Okay. And similarly, when the group of tissues will combine together, they are going to form a particular organ. And in this particular case, it is going to form a liver. Okay. Then different organs, they will combine up together and finally they will form organ system. Now, liver is a part of organ system and that's called the digestive system. Okay. You must have studied about it. So digestive system. So liver along with the pancreas, along with the salivary gland, all these different kind of organs, they are going to combine together and they are going to form organ system that's called the digestive system. Okay. And the various organ systems of our body. For example, like say digestive system, let's say respiratory system. Okay. Respiratory system. Then we can add, let's say, reproductive system. We can add excretory system. Okay, many systems can be added. So these all systems, they are going to come, when we combine them together, they are going to form a complete organism. Example of organism is like a human body, we can say a cat, dog, horse, or giraffe. Not even only in the case of animals only, it's similar in case of plants also. Okay, so plants are also the example of organism. Now, let us understand what is the meaning of all this. Actually, an organism is the one which is able to perform the life processes. What I mean by that, for example, let's talk about amoeba. Amoeba is multicellular or amoeba is unicellular? Can anyone tell me?
So unicellular.
Unicellular, right? Unicellular means
Cell unicellular.
exactly. Unicellular means one single cell. It is composed of one single cell, right? So if it is composed of one single cell, that means there should be no tissues, there should be no organs, and there will be no organ system, right? But still, we are calling amoeba as an organism. Why is that? Because an organism, basically it should perform all the functions like respiration, functions like excretion, nutrition. Okay, these processes, these functions are basically called life processes. These are called life processes. And if an organism or if a living system, whether it is single cell, whether it is multicellular body, if that particular system is able to perform all the life processes like respiration, excretion, nutrition, then we will call that particular as the organism. Maybe it is made up of 1 billion cells, maybe it is made up of only 10 cells, it doesn't matter. But if the organism is performing all the life processes such as respiration, excretion, nutrition, okay, all the digestion and all these systems, all the processes, then we will call that as organism. Any problem up till here?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Aiden?
No, sir.
There is no problem. Let's move. The next topic is about the types of organism. Already we have studied about the type of organisms. Okay, in this particular thing, in this particular topic, the types of organisms, just a second. Okay, in this particular part, the types of organisms, what we are going to study here is basically this, that the organisms are of two types, as you can see on your screens also. It could be unicellular or it could be multicellular organism. Obviously, I have taught you in the class, we will do the Sandhi Vichhed here, right? So there are two words in it. What are those two words? Uni and cellular. What is the meaning of uni? One, or you can say single. And cellular can be called as celled or cell. So the single celled organisms or the organisms which are composed of only one single type of cell, those are called unicellular organisms. Examples are, for example, bacteria, algae. Some of the algae are unicellular and some are multicellular also. Okay, so algae is also one of the example. Now, there are multicellular organisms also. Multi means many and cellular means cell. So many cell or many celled organisms or organisms which are having multiple cells, more than group of cells, those are called multicellular organisms. Examples are like human, plant, cat, dog, horse, giraffe. There are many. Okay. Any problem up till here?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Let's move on to the next part, that is discovery of the cell. In this particular part, discovery of the cell, I have already told you this, that discovery was made by Robert Hooke. First cell, it was discovered by Robert Hooke. And Robert Hooke, he discovered dead cells for the first time. I told you this, right? He discovered, Robert Hooke, who was the scientist, he discovered dead cells for the first time. And he was observing slice of cork. Slice means a thin section, very fine and thin section, patla sa section, patla sa part, cork ka. Okay, so he was studying that particular slice or particular part of the cork by the microscope that he developed. Okay, and he observed honeycomb like compartments or boxes that are stacked up together. Stacked up together means they were grouped together, ek saath the, and he called them as the cells. Okay, but the point to remember is that he observed dead cells. Okay, he observed dead cells. And the second part is that he published his work in his book. That means he wrote a book in 1665 that was called Micrographia, and he basically drew all the diagrams. He made his findings, जो भी उसने पता लगाया था, he made it public in this particular book. Okay, the second point is not going to be asked in your exam. It is just for your knowledge. Okay. Then the next point says that the living cells was discovered by Anton von Leeuwenhoek. Now, this particular scientist, he observed the free living cells for the first time. I told you this in the class also, that Anton von Leeuwenhoek, he observed living cells for the first time. So if your question is asked, who observed the cells for the first time? Now you're not told dead or living. What will be the answer?
Robert Hooke.
Robert.
Robert? Exactly. Robert Hooke. Robert Hooke will be the answer. Why Robert Hooke will be the answer? Because we are...
सर क्योंकि रॉबर्ट हुक ने पहले फाइंड किए थे cells.
Exactly.
Robert Hooke discovered the dead cells for the first time.
Yes. Robert Hooke discovered for the first time, very first time, it was discovered by Robert Hooke only. And that is why we will write Robert Hooke. But yes, if it is specifically asked who discovered the living cells for the first time, then the answer will be
Antonie van Leeuwenhoek.
yes.
Anthony Van Leeuwenhoek.
Yes. So answer will be Anthony van Leeuwenhoek. Okay. Now, a cell also has a nucleus. So nucleus was discovered by Robert Brown. Robert Brown is the name of the scientist. Okay. And students, don't confuse yourself in the Robert Brown and Robert Hooke. Okay. This is Robert Brown and here is Robert Hooke. These both are two different scientists. So do not confuse in these two. Okay. Now coming
Okay, sir.
to the next point, J.E. Purkinje. J.E. Purkinje coined the term. Coined means he gave the term protoplasm. And protoplasm is a term, is a word that is used for all the fluid substance, or fluid means which can flow, जो बह सकता है. So only gases and liquids are the substances which can flow. Solids cannot flow. So he said that all the fluid substances, if you see them, if you see it inside a cell, it appears that it is a living structure. So he said that all the living structure can be called as in one word, it will be called as protoplasm. Okay. So living part.
So what is cork?
What is?
Cork.
Cork. Okay, I will get to that also. So protoplasm was the living part of the cell. Okay, now the cork. If you want to study about the cork, let's take one break. Just a second. Tissues. It's in the tissues part 1. Okay, just a second. Are you able to see this particular slide? This particular thing? बेटा diagrams दिखाई दे रहे हैं?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now,
Yes, sir.
this particular diagram that you are seeing, observing, this particular diagram is on the right hand side. It is a diagram of a bark of a tree. जो पेड़ की छाल होती है ना, उसकी बात कर रहे हैं. So as you can see, the uppermost, नीचे से देखो, नीचे सबसे नीचे जहां पर है CU means cuticle. CU means cuticle. What is cuticle? Cuticle is a layer or covering on the stem. Stem पे covering होती है, ठीक है? उसके बारे में हम आगे पढ़ेंगे. Then this EP means epidermis. Epidermis means topmost layer of the cells. Okay, topmost layer. किसी भी चीज की protective layer जो होती है. Now, after that, you can see there are numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up till 6, right? So these are all layers. ये 6, एक पहली layer को 1, second layer को 2, third layer को 3, fourth layer को 4, and then fifth, then 6. So these all are layers. These are layers of cork cells. So these all layers are non-living cells. These all layers are of non-living cells, dead cells, and these dead cells are cork cells. Okay? अब पता लगा बेटा cork कहाँ होता है cell plant में?
Yes, sir.
So this is the portion of the plant which is having the cork cells. Okay? Any doubt now? Yes. Any doubt to anyone? Okay.
No, sir.
Let's
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, now let's move on again. Next slide. Okay. Cell theory. Cell theory is very interesting and it is a bit easy and it was a bit tricky also. How it was tricky, let's understand. So first of all, there was a scientist called Matthias Jacob Schilden. We call him as Schilden only. Okay, we do not use the first two terms, Schilden. So this Schilden was a German botanist. Botanist means who study on plants. Okay. Now, and there was another scientist, Theodore Schwann. Schwann was a zoologist. British zoologist. Zoologist means that the person who studies animals. Like for example, me, I have done my master's degree in zoology. So zoology means I have studied animals. Okay, I have not studied plants. Plants को detail में नहीं पढ़ा मैंने अपने masters की degree में. I have studied animals. I am a zoologist, but I have chosen to teach. Right. Similarly, I can go also for the research. So this scientist Schwann, he was doing his research work on animals, and he's called a zoologist. Now, Schilden and Schwann, they were working separately. As you can see, there's a difference in the year 1838 and 1839. So there's difference, right? So Schilden was working on plants and Schwann was working on the animals, and they both published their work separately. That Schilden said that I have discovered plant cell, and Schwann said that I have discovered animal cells. Now, when they came to know about each other, because they have published their work, they came to know about each other, and finally they came together and they proposed a cell theory. मिल करके एक cell theory दी. Okay, and what that cell theory was that all the bodies of plants and animals are composed
made up of cells.
or product of cells. Product of cells means, for example, we have studied about this like keratin. So keratin is a substance that is produced by the cells. Okay, like keratin. Just say, for example, our hairs, our nails. These are the products of the cells. Okay, these are the products of the cells. So these are actually secreted by the cells. This is what we mean by the product of cell. In case of plants, plants are secreting like gums, resins. Okay, so these are the products of the plants in case of plants. Now, but there was a drawback. The Schilden and Schwann, they gave a theory, but there was a drawback. Drawback means disadvantage of this theory. What was the disadvantage? This cell theory was not able to explain that from where the new cells are coming. नए cells कहाँ से आ रहे हैं? So they were not able to explain that. Beta Mayank Kumar, please mute your mic. Okay. So after that, there was a different scientist, Rudolf Virchow. He gave a statement, omnis cellula e cellula. If we translate this statement into the English, we will find cells divide and new cells are formed from the pre-existing cells. So Rudolf Virchow, finally, he completed their cell theory. And today, as we know, the cell theory states is having 3 points. The first point is all organisms are composed of cells and productive cells. Second point states all cells arise from pre-existing cells. Pre-existing means the one which are existing before. पहले से जो exist करते हुए cells हैं, उसमें से ही नए cells आएंगे. For example, if this is a cell and it is dividing into two, that simply means it is going to divide in these two cells. So this particular cell has arrived from this cell. Without the existence of first cell, there will be no 2 and 3, right? अगर first cell नहीं होता तो 2 और 3 number वाले cells भी नहीं होते. So this is what he said, that 2 and 3 number of cells, they are arising from actually first cell. Okay. And at last we are studying the cell is the basic and functional unit of life. And by this we have a proper meaning. इसका एक proper meaning होता है. What is that meaning? Let's understand that. So cell structure and definition, as you can see the diagram over here, right? So on the left hand side you are seeing the diagram of a plant cell. On the right hand side you are seeing the diagram of a animal cell. So most of the labelings, as you can see, they are common. काफी सारी labelings बेटा common है, right? Like nucleus, nuclear pore, various ribosomes, Golgi apparatus, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and various. But there are still some things which are not common. For example, chloroplast. Here, chloroplast. Chloroplast is present in plant cells only. Cell wall present in plant cells only. In animal, centrioles is present in animals only. So these are some of the differences. We will study about it. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of that particular statement, which we said that basic unit of life? Cell is the basic unit of life. Let's understand that. So here, what we are trying to say, similarly, that let's assume that this is a, okay, it must not be visible. Just a second. So let's say this is a wall, okay, and it is having many bricks. This is a wall, and a wall is made up of many bricks. Since it is made up of many bricks, we can see that without bricks, there will be no wall, right? Without bricks,
Yes, sir.
there will be no wall. So we are saying that we are having two structures, that is wall and bricks. So we are saying that if we imagine that bricks are just like cells and walls are just like the organism, so it is having a same relation. That means if we combine up the cells together, we are going to have an organism, and there is no existence of organism without a cell. Agar cell nahi, to organism bhi nahi hai, right? So the smallest entity, smallest thing that you can require in order to build up an organism or a living life is the cell. Cell से छोटा ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है बेटा, जिसको हम अलग से निकाल दें, and it will be a separate individual unique life. That is why we call it the basic unit of life. Smallest, the basic unit of life is the cell. Any confusion in this particular part?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So that's it for today. And if you have any question, you can ask me now. Do you have any question?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Let's one more thing. There's a term called acellular. Okay. although I have given the definition in section, in my section, in section A, but I will also require you to find out what is the acellular. Okay, so this is your homework. Find out what is acellular. Write it in your notebook. You will be given notes. Okay, I will provide you the notes. Don't worry about it. But in your notebook, write down what is acellular. Okay, find out what does the term acellular means and note down it in your notebook.
Sir, in our fair notebook.
Yes, in your fair notebook of biology. Okay, beta? Yes, please mark your attendance. Those who have not marked their attendance, mark your attendance. Prince Malik, beta, we are going to explain in English only. And if you are, you can ask me to repeat that sentence in English. Oh, sorry, in Hindi. Okay? अगर आपको प्रॉब्लम हो रही है, नो इशू, आप मुझे बता देना कि सर ये वाला पॉइंट आप हिंदी में भी एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिए. ओके? Yes, Tanisha, 9th D. Any problem, beta?
No, sir.
Okay. Please mark your attendance by sending your name, class, and section. And if you have already marked your attendance, you can leave the class and join your next class if you have one.
Hi, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, beta.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, I think attendance. So that's it for today.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.